Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, prepare yourself to say, wow, because this episode of the JKWD podcast is something special. We have with us today Awilda Rivera. She is, we'll call her a success coach. How's that? Because it really does no good at all. It does some good, but it really doesn't describe all of what she does. But she's got a much more succinct version of that than we ever had. And yeah, we'll go do the show.
Josh and Kelvin World Domination Podcast, where we talk about better humanhood and teach you how to dominate your world. You ready? Here we go.
Hey Kelvin, how you doing?
Hi Josh, I'm doing fine. Thank you very much. I'm doing good. I got nothing to complain about, and life is all right.
All right. Wow.
Like that.
I like that. I got plenty to complain about, but I won't bother because you know what? It doesn't do me any good.
I don't think I remember it long enough to complain about it. To be perfectly honest with you, whatever it is, life's kind of sweet. I'm excited about this week's podcast.
Yeah, it's awesome. It is. I'm using your words. I'm using words like awesome and wow. Yeah, those are usually Kelvinisms.
I was going to say that's kind of scary. Like, are you okay? Yes, but she had a ton of energy, and she was so succinct. I don't even know how you say it, but that part out. She was so amazing, and I've rarely talked to anyone who could be that precise with language and
still be interesting, right? Normally, otherwise it usually just comes out one word answers, and it wasn't
real life people.
Wasn't with her, yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm probably going to listen to this one over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah. Anytime you need a little fuel, this will be a good one.
Yeah, I swear. We may have to put this in the top 10. Okay, well, put them in the top 5 for right now.
Yeah.
On a podcast and drive people to it incessantly. Awesome person. So
true story. We're brought to you today by Audible. If you want a free audiobook, a free month at Audible, and Awilda talks about learning, and this is a great way to keep learning. So do this. Go over to audibletrial.com/JKWD and start learning with a free audiobook. Something like I don't know, The Brain's Way of Healing by Norman Doidge, MD. Remarkable discoveries and recoveries from the frontiers of neuroplasticity. This revolutionary new book shows for the first time how the amazing process of neuroplastic healing really works. It describes natural, non-invasive avenues into the brain provided by the forms of energy around us. I think this will go well with this episode too. And when you purchase this title, which again you could do for free if you went to JKWD Podcast, audibletrial.com/JKWD podcast. You can go to jkwdpodcast.com and click on the show notes. There would be a link to audibletrial.com/JKWD. But when you purchase this title, the accompanying reference material is also available in your library. So you can download not only this book for free, but also all the reference material. Kelvin, You got a book?
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Awilda also talked about peace of mind in her podcast. So I'm picking this book called Fearless: The 7 Principles of Peace of Mind by Brenda Shoshana. Fear can ruin relationships, harm careers, and destroy peace of mind. It holds us hostage to pain. But Dr. Brenda Shoshana has the techniques to set us free. I like that. So, Fearless, 7 Principles of Peace of Mind. Hey.
audibletrial.com/JKWD for your free audiobook, your free month at Audible. And let's go ahead and roll this on over into our discussion with Awilda.
Hello, Awilda.
Welcome. We're going to do what we usually do here and say, hey, why don't you introduce yourself, because you're going to do it so much better than we do. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Hi, guys. Well, my name is Awilda Rivera. I am a success coach, yogi, and spiritual advisor who has really dedicated my life to using my gifts to help others achieve not only their potential, but find the success that they really desire.
You've got that down pretty good.
That was succinct. You need to be more babbly than that. I mean, you draw that sucker out, you know.
So what does that mean? What
Yeah. There's a lot in there. So my brand, AwildaRivera.com, is a personal and professional development brand. And what that basically is a fancy way of saying that I'm a helper. I've always wanted to help people ever since my first job as an advisor for a nonprofit that I was an alumni of at the age of 14. I've been acting in an advisory or consulting, coaching capacity all the way throughout even college and law school. So what I do as a success coach is take the wonderful success conversion method and help people drill down on what exactly it is that they are trying to do. Like, for example, I have one client who is in the legal field and was looking to transition locations and just find more life balance. We got really clear on exactly what she determined life balance to be, exactly where she wanted to be, what she wanted to do. And within about 6 months, she had moved from the Caribbean back to D.C., working at an NGO, met a guy, got proposed to, etc. The rest is I'm going to the wedding in June.
Sweet.
In other ways, professionals, for example, that are looking to build their business, it may be about launching a new product or going into the next phase. So there's many entrepreneurs I work with who are semi-established, who are looking to really dig into a particular niche or become more known or respected in a particular area. So we put together a strategy around that. So that's basically the in a nutshell, what success coaching is all about. The spiritual advisement is really about helping people find whatever their deeper connection is in a non-religious way. So whatever that means to them. I do have a shamanic background genetically, culturally, that I utilize to help people with that. And then I'm a certified yoga teacher. So I lead international wellness retreats, again, to help people explore transformation through the physical aspects, through meditation and connecting with themselves. Just trying to help.
Wow.
Do you lead some of those classes out of a studio? Do you online? Or?
Yeah, I have right now 4 public classes that I offer at 3 different studios here in Atlanta, where I'm currently residing. And on my wellness retreats, I offer yoga. So I just did one to Cuba in October. I'm doing one this April 21st to 26th to Barbados. And I do post a lot of writings about yoga on the web. I've been a 2-year or maybe almost 3-year now monthly columnist for a magazine called Aquarius that is online and in hard copy in the southeastern region called Under the Bodhi Tree. And it's really a column where I help people to explore and understand the yoga with capital Y, which is the philosophy, the tenets, the ways you can take it off the mat, bigger than just the poses that you've seen now popularized by social media, TV, Hollywood.
Would this
I'll have
be
to take a look for that magazine.
Finger,
I'm in your region.
Thing? that popularized pose, would that be the finger to finger? I've looked at that going, my knees are complaining. I haven't even started that. But anyway, so my question is this, because I'll tell you, I'm looking at your website, I'm looking at your images, and I'm looking at you, and I read your bio, and I understand that you have been to law school and all that nifty stuff. So I'm thinking that you started at 6. So, and right now in your 14th year, you're doing like around the world. So, tell us about that. Well, obviously you didn't start at 6, did you?
No. I'm actually, and I only know this because I am doing like a gratitude exercise leading up to my birthday, but I'm actually 20 days out of my 34th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So didn't quite start at 6, but will definitely credit a lot of my kind of hustle spirit to growing up around hustlers. And for those of you listening who are kind of like, does that mean like a gangbanger? No, it's a colloquial term for sort of an urban entrepreneur who just is able to make money on the side doing anything, in addition to whatever their job is. Both of my parents growing up had a strong entrepreneurial spirit and had a lot of side hustles, as we call them. And I just grew up seeing that. In terms of, going to law school, I'm a child, admittedly, of the Cosby generation. And being a person of color as well, thought that was an incredible example and just wanted to emulate what I saw. And being the first person in my family to graduate from college, right, I didn't have a lot to necessarily model myself after in the academic or corporate sense. And even though I admired my parents' hustle, I knew that I didn't necessarily want to just have all these different hustles or like have a job that I then also had to have another job that I liked more doing. And I thought that I would really love being a lawyer. While I love being a student, I learned pretty quickly that I didn't love practicing law or other people that practice law. And I say that, sort of tongue in cheek because I still have a lot of friends that are lawyers, that I love, but they are the exception, I think, and not the rule. And so I also decided I wanted to be a certain kind of person. And if I let myself be a lawyer, I wasn't going to be that kind of person. I was going to be a more a darker version of myself, although I'd be very good at it. It's not necessarily what I want to spend my energy doing. And so after having a mild heart attack at the age of 27, clerking clerking for a judge, and I spent a night in Jersey City Medical Center in the cardiac wing with an EKG thing, like really looking pitiful, seriously. I was like, probably I shouldn't be doing this, which led me to really reconnect and say, what is it that I really want to do? Why did I want to do this in the first place? Okay, I want to help people. What skills do I have that I can use to actually help people? And that's how I started the journey to doing what I'm currently doing.
It seems like you started that journey pretty quick. If you're just if that happened at 27 and you're still on your way to 34, coming right up, you've done a lot of. I don't want to say it's a 180, but you've done a lot of different directions from where you started. You've wandered a few different paths.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I feel fortunate for is the ability to find paths that all interconnect in an organic way. And I think, to use a term that I really don't like, but is just a term, millennials, we have we're multifaceted, passionate people. And I think a lot of the struggle sometimes is finding a way that we can honor all those passions and make money, but also not have like 5 different businesses that are completely separate.
Awesome.
I'm a millennial up in Atlanta?
I said I'm a millennial at heart, but that's as far as to the millennials, I'm just another old guy who has a good time. So tell us how, if you don't mind, how that journey to find you basically is what you're just telling me about, how that affects your practice or how that fuels your practice.
Yeah, well, I mean, the wonderful thing is like everything that I do is also to help people find them, right? So the success coaching, even though, yes, I'm keeping you accountable. Yes, I'm keeping it real with you and saying like, hey, you want to be an engineer? Great. Do you have any skills? Okay, because maybe you need to go out and get some. And how do we need to do that? You know, I'm not coddling them, but in that respect, in yoga, helping people really connect with themselves first and foremost, and then their environment, spiritual environment, helping them remember that they are divine. It's all about also helping them find them. And so I think that's how it affects it. You know, I have to, you know, to use a cheesy, somewhat dated reference, like I'm like the Hair Club for Men president. Like I'm not just the president, I'm also a member. Like I have an accountability partner. Like I practice yoga 3 or 4 times a week because it makes me a better person. You know what I mean? Like I, you know, travel because I know it's transformative experiences. I coach myself. I go to therapy. You know what I'm saying? Like I live it. I don't just tell people, hey, you should do this and pay me to help you. You know, like I live it too. Yeah. And Josh, you asked if I lived in Atlanta.
I asked if you grew up there. Yeah.
No, I didn't. I grew up in New York.
Okay.
In some of
you sound a little more northeast.
yeah. I grew up in what a pretty famous one-hit wonder author by the name of Piri Thomas would refer to as the mean streets. I grew up in Spanish Harlem. I grew up in Brownsville, Brooklyn, and some of the, at the time, more gritty neighborhoods of New York City that now, you know, they look completely different. And good for them, I say. Yeah. Good for the neighborhood.
So how did you come by Atlanta?
Well, I'll keep it succinct because it's one of those stories, but essentially a childhood friend of mine that was in an academic enrichment program with me called Prep for Prep out of New York ended up here going to Emory. And later on in our lives, we became romantic. And he is very charming and very convincing and got me to come down here. And luckily, we're still together, so I don't regret it at all.
Good to know.
And that's how I got down here. That's how I got down here.
I mean, it's a great city. I enjoy it.
It really has
we settled
developed a lot.
Instead, but, you know,
oh, really? What coast are you guys on?
I'm in Savannah.
Oh, nice.
And I grew up in Massachusetts, so I made that same kind of northeast.
I went to boarding school in Concord.
Okay. I'm from the other side of the state, from Springfield.
Yeah.
I'm an anomaly. That's my job.
Where are you from?
I was born in Cambridge, Maryland. I stayed there till I was, what did we do? Oh, we started moving at 10. My father was a minister, so we started moving around the place. Got out of that, joined the Air Force at 17. Through a number of crazy moves, I ended up in Syracuse, New York in 1992, where I still reside after doing 20 years in the Air Force, and then ended up out here. So my thing, I like where you're coming from, because my thing is I've wanted to help. I've been helping people since I was in high school, you know. So, but you know, being a nice guy to talk to, and that kind of thing. Eventually, it leads to, well, has led to more in my case. But so I've been here since '92, and I moved here because I retired from the Air Force in Sacramento, California, and I came here anyway. So people look at me like, "What's wrong with you? Why did you leave California and come to Syracuse?" Oh, Syracuse. Anyway, good. So that's where we are. So I mean, tell me how you kind of told us how you got started, but what is your passion as far as helping people? You have this and you do all this stuff, and I like that everything you love doing fits into a package, and it's kind of like the way I like to run my world. But you know, we look at you, and you know, how do you even approach people, or how do they find you? How do they approach you?
Yeah. So in terms of how do people find me and approach me, I have I'm one of those sort of old school people that feels like I like people to know me, but I know that we live in a new age where obviously I want to affect, if everyone in the world only came to me once or had one cycle with me, like that'd be awesome, right? But like, how do you reach someone in China? So I realized that even though I'm a handshake, look you in the eye kind of person, I have to do my best to try to give people a sense of who I am through my various social media platforms, my website, my writings. And so while I don't really market, honestly. My services are word of mouth referral through the exposure that I get through various platforms like these wonderful podcasts and the different audiences that I connect with. And then I very strategically tap a handful of people every month and that I've been following or that I feel like, I might be a good person to be of service to them. And I put myself out there. And I think that in this day and age, there's a lot of like I want to be someplace where people just come to me and it's just like rolling in passive income. And it's like, that's awesome and that's great. But I think that there's also a place for that. But I also do think that there's something to be said, and maybe it's the hustler in me, about going out there and getting it and going out there and having yourself be seen. Because just because someone doesn't come and reach out doesn't mean that you couldn't be a good fit. It just means they have 1,000 other things and their feed, as they say, clog the feed. Their feed is clogged with 1,000 other people just like you, or so it seems, that are offering them a free webinar or a this or a that. And so I think going the extra step and reaching out personally and saying, hey, we're connected through LinkedIn, or we follow each other, or I love this theme that you wrote, and would you be open to this? The worst thing they could say is no.
How do you pick those people?
That's a great question. Let me see, how do I put this? I pick people that I feel and that I believe are hungry, in the sense that they're out there getting it themselves. Like they already are exhibiting some form of like, I'm out here doing it, trying to do something, right? They are people that seem to have at least a moderately clear vision of what it is they're trying to do. Okay. And that they've been working at it for a little while. Those are the three sort of basic things that I look for. Someone that shows the energy that they're committed to accomplishing whatever they're setting out. Right on. They have an idea of what that is, and they've been doing it for some time. It doesn't have to be 5 years, but it isn't like their first month. And that's kind of like the basic. And then after that, it's a little bit of an intuition kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
When did you learn to trust that intuition? Because that seems to be a big thing for people not doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have to admit I'm a little bit of a unique circumstance, because given the whole how I grew up with the shamanic part being a part of my culture and my household, the intuition was always like I was trained, I was encouraged, which a lot of people are discouraged growing up from trusting their intuition or trusting their gut. And so in many ways, I think that where people have to start, for those of you out there who are like, oh, that's easy, great for you, but what am I going to do with that? The first thing to do is to just start listening. There's an excellent book about intuition by a woman named Echo Bodine called A Small Still Voice. And it's about just recognizing and remembering that you have an intuition, that you have a Jiminy Cricket, that is there, that is helping you. If you just give yourself permission to take it in and to sit with it, And of course, it's something that if you've completely disconnected from it, is going to feel weird. And over time, you're going to have to kind of deprogram your mind from being like, oh, this is not scientific. But, I think that the more you start to trust that, it's phenomenal. It's like literally, for any of you that ever played video games, it's like the cheat code. It's like back up, AB, and suddenly like everything is unlocked if you really get to become best friends with your intuition.
I haven't heard that book, but I'm going to look it up. Mine was Shakti Gawain. I've got her book, so which helps a lot. And I've just recently learned to really start trusting my intuition, and it's kind of freaky sometimes.
Right?
But anyway, so how would you? Well, I actually want to delve a little bit into the shamanic background. Some of our folks may know what a shaman is. I mean, I've got like one friend that is a shaman that I'm aware of. So give us a little bit more about that side of your world.
Sure. So to basically the working definition I use for a shaman is a person who has a cultural background in some type of medicinal or root work that has to do with an ancient or tribal culture. That's the definition that I like to use, that is, I think, most accessible for people, because different cultures call them different things, right? Some people say I'm a root worker, some people say you're a medicine woman, some people call you, depending on where you are in the world, it may be a different curandero, blah, blah, blah. It's different things to different cultures. My ethnic background is Puerto Rican 100%, which means that I am native Carib, like Taino Indian, on actually 2 generations back. So my grandmother's father was a full-blooded Taino Indian. My grandmother's mother was a full-blooded African, descendant from free slaves that had moved to Puerto Rico. And on my mother's side, I have Taino Indian and European. And that's pretty much every Puerto Rican. Puerto Ricans can be any color. But because of the heavy Taino and African influence in my family, I grew up with what they call in Puerto Rico Santeria and Espiritismo, which is known as Santeria or spiritualism. For those of you who study like Alec Kardec, the French writer, it's about connecting with guides and intuition and the universe, blah, blah, blah. And Santeria is the Yoruba West African religion that the slaves had to merge with Catholicism and then gave birth to these different religions in the Caribbean, Santeria, Candomblé, Obia, Palo, blah, 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 that is basically a hybrid of Catholicism and the Yoruba polytheistic nature predominant religion, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so I grew up exposed to all of that. I grew up going to Santeria ceremonies. My father is a musician for them. Listening to the music. My grandmother used to like heal my migraines by doing what I then used to call just like home remedies, but now I know are, like little cures and stuff. She used to lay hands on me. People used to come from the neighborhood from my paternal grandmother to lay hands on them. Right. And so I just, at the time growing up, and she was very Catholic. By the time I was born, she would go to mass every every Sunday, excuse me. And so I just thought it was a Puerto Rican thing. I was just like, oh, Puerto Ricans. I don't know. It wasn't until I got more, into the world, older, that I realized all of the things that I just explained to the audience about the combination and the evolution and all of that. And ever since a very young age, I myself had different gifts that I, again, just discounted or just took for granted maybe as being Puerto Rican. Like I could see, I had clairvoyance, I had clairaudience, I had clairsentience, but I just thought that was regular. I had premonition dreams. I just thought that was regular. All that kind of thing. So it wasn't until I got older that I realized while everyone can do those things, not everyone is attuned to utilize them in this lifetime or want to use them or are able to use them, even though everyone can. And that's where I kind of started to take more ownership of that and utilize that to help people.
Awesome. Do you in your practice per se?
Mm-hmm.
Do you do any laying on of hands practices or?
I do. I'm also a certified Reiki master, and part of what I did that was to give people a non-scary, westernized point of departure so they can understand what I'm doing. And so through the framework of Reiki and through another technique called full spectrum healing, I'm able to, or what they call the hands of light technique. There's a book written by Barbara Brennan. Through those two sort of more Western platforms, I'm able to explain what I do. And to kind of answer your question more directly, I do laying on of hands, but I also do remote energetic healing as well. So depending on what people need, I offer that for them.
Cool. Excellent.
I also train people to become Reiki masters. I have an online course that's $99 for them to become a Reiki master, because I think more people should just know Reiki. Otherwise, if they go to try to learn, it's like $150 per first and second module, and then like $350 for the master course. It's like, why? Yeah.
I actually, I'm a third, level 3 Reiki practitioner also.
That's awesome.
I don't do, most of mine has been distance healing. I haven't done any hands-on. I seem to be more effective on a distance, which is kind of wild when we first started that. But that's a whole other conversation. Cool, Josh.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm really enjoying about this conversation is, like, when I go to your website, I'm like, holy cow, she does this, and this, and you come on here and you recognize them as all kind of connected toward one path, and I really love that. How did you make that connection, and how do you kind of keep adding stuff?
Yeah.
How do you recognize that?
So I think, and again, I think I feel very blessed in a sense, that I feel like it's finally complete. Like, I don't think there's anything else I need to particularly add at this point. But when I first started, it was just spiritual advisement. That was the first part that became really clear, because I became an ordained minister in 2009, when I first started feeling this calling around the divine connection and around connecting with my shamanism and wanting to use it in a way that was, again, there's also a theme of sort of being accessible, like having the most amount of people not feeling like, ooh, that's not for me, or what is that, or, like, is that not, it's just a lot of trying to dispel a lot of the perhaps misinformation in a way that seems like, oh, okay, like, she seems normal, or like, that seems regular, and so the spiritual advisement was really the first path. And it took me between 2009 and really 2012 before I even opened myself up to publicly say, like, hey, I can talk to dead people if you want me to talk to your dead people. And, like, I can talk to your guides if that will serve you. And, I can also do some energy work if that's something that you need. Like, it took all that time to me. Like, I had to run myself through a few gamuts of tests, because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just, like, A, losing it, B, some charlatan, or C, like, just like, I don't know, I don't even know, but I just wanted to make sure it was, like, actually the real deal. And that's why even now when I do readings for people, I'm very old school. If they're in front of me, I keep my eyes closed the entire time. I don't ask them any questions at all. Like, and if they have questions for me, I make them be very general, because that's something that I'm very serious about. But then I realized that, okay, spiritual advisement is great, but the spectrum of people, like, if this is everyone, like, if it's like, finger to finger with your arms outstretched, the spectrum of people that are already ready and open to the spiritual advisement of the energy, is just like from the middle of your finger to your elbow, which leaves out the whole rest of the arm span, which I want to, affect. And then through talking to my spiritual advisor, she reminded me of, like, hey, you're supposed to be coaching people. Like, what are you doing? Get your act together, And I was like, you're right. That is right. And at that same time, I was already going through my yoga teacher training, having already completed the children and family certification. So making sure I can teach ages 3 to 103. And so the way the universe had it, I did both trainings at the exact same time. And even though that was quite an experience, I loved it because, like I said at the beginning of this whole thing, I love learning. I love being a student. So it was kind of my wheelhouse a little bit. And when I completed those, from the minute I took my first coaching client, who has actually, she's been with me for 2 years, and not because she hasn't accomplished things, but because she's the one that moved and got married, and now she's moving again to Chile, and her soon-to-be husband is an attaché. Like, she's like taking over the world. From the minute I had my first coaching client, the minute I did my first yoga class, I was like, that's it. These are the other two pieces of the puzzle. Like, my puzzle is now complete because I can do everything within these three boxes. I can do everything.
You mentioned earlier that you're doing a gratitude practice as you head toward your birthday. You mind talking about that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. So the gratitude practice I'm doing is just 30 days to 34. It's just something I just came up with. I mean, you see a lot of people doing it. I've seen people do the 365 days of gratitude or 100 days of gratitude, and I've always really admired them for doing it. And, I was like, said to myself, I'm going to do it sometime. And then I was like, you know what? Awilda, do it now. And I think, and I'm just going to be honest with the audience, like I said, I practice what I preach. And I am someone that for many years, especially growing up, I have post-traumatic stress from things I experienced as a child. And I deal with anxiety. And I've been working a lot with Buddhist tenets. I'm not saying I'm a Buddhist, but I've been studying a lot of the Buddhist methodology and thought practice, and it lines up very perfectly with the yoga philosophy, and it's been bringing me a lot of peace of mind. And part of what Buddhists share is that there's 3 jewels of Buddhism. There's the Buddhas, the Dharma, and something else. And part of the Dharma is sharing it with other people. Not like being like, you should be a Buddhist and you should study Buddhism, but like, hey, like, it's about being grateful. It's about peace. It's about whatever. So I thought it would be a good way for me to share the Dharma, but also live the Dharma, to share a 30-day gratitude practice. And so on my Instagram stories every day, I'm posting a photo with something that I'm grateful for and a little message about it. And I'm trying to cross it over to my Facebook. I'm not doing as good a job posting it on my Facebook, but it is on my Instagram every day. Today is day 10, and it just snowed in Georgia, and everything is closed. And it didn't snow like crazy, but there's literally, you live in Savannah, so you know, Josh, that there are literally 3 salt trucks in the state of Georgia. and so school is closed. My stepdaughter's home from school. And, the reason why I chose the weather is, and if you guys see my story today, it says, today I'm grateful for the weather. Normally we think of it as an inconvenience, but it can be an opportunity for us to appreciate the little things, right? So while I was like, dang, my stepdaughter's going to be home, I got to figure out where I'm going to do this podcast, because I normally do it in her room because the dogs aren't there. And my partner's home, he's sleeping in because all construction is halted and blah, 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 blah. I was like, you know what? Let's just be grateful. Everything has slowed down. I have one more day I could work. I can get some stuff done. I could enjoy their company. I love the snow, even though I don't love living in the snow. I get to, one of my dogs is a half German Shepherd, half Husky. So she is just like she's so happy getting to watch her play in the snow. These little things that otherwise we may be like right over the head as you put your head down and keep working. But it's like, why not take a moment, be grateful, appreciate it, and like share it with other people, because maybe someone else is having a terrible day, and seeing that changes their perspective a little bit. And that's sharing the Dharma.
And how are you finding the gratitude for yourself?
I'm enjoying it, a lot, because, it's another way that I could help people get to know me. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes I think as an entrepreneur with your social media, it's like, you overthink it. It's like, I gotta like let people know me, but not too much, but like share stuff, but like I want to keep some things private, but da 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 da. Whereas, like, I feel like in this gratitude practice, it's like I'm just really just being 100% authentic, as I try to be as much as possible,
Right.
and just letting them into something that's very personal to me. These 30 days leading up to my 31st birthday, using these gratitudes to help me not be anxious, to establish more peace of mind, and to just be a happier person.
Is there anything you haven't done?
Sure. There's tons. There's tons of things I haven't done. There's so many things I haven't done, which is why I keep, I was just telling someone yesterday, because I got the incredible, humbling honor to have been asked to be a part of the yoga teacher training mentorship faculty at the studio where I did my yoga teacher training, which for a yoga teacher is like a big honor. And so I was telling someone the other day that, the most important thing that I'm carrying with me into this new opportunity, this experience, is that I'm always going to be a student. To never forget that I'm always a student. And, to your point of are there things that I haven't done? Sure, there's still so much I have to learn. So by that virtue alone, there's tons of things I haven't done and even more things I have yet to experience.
Where do you get all this energy?
If you've seen my parents, you would be like, whoa. My dad is and I'm not going to say too much about him because he hates when I talk about him in public. He's a very private guy. But he's 63. He just had a replacement hip, but when he 3 days after his surgery, he was already walking around. And to give you perspective, since his replacement, which was in July, he's already gone back to kickboxing, gone back to Krav Maga, done a scuba dive with sharks, traveled to Cambodia, and has taken up Wing Chun and some other things. And he drives a motorcycle. He's a guy who taught himself IT in his 40s. So, I get it from them for sure. For sure. I've often been told I need to relax more, which is why I do yoga.
When you put all that into a vitamin, would you call me? It's just give me a bottle, tell me how much it is, and I'll take out a loan, do it for you.
If only I could synthesize it. Wow. Yeah. He is a force to be reckoned with. I'll tell you for sure. So. Excellent. I definitely get it from them.
Wow. So when you want to come on the podcast, what is the result? What did you want the world to know from our interviewing you? What is the message you've really got for humanity?
Yeah. Well, my message for humanity is that's one thing. But my message for your audience, let's start there. My message for your audience was that, there's a person out there that can be a resource to you whose sole focus and their life's work is dedicated to helping you achieve the success you desire. Not only achieve it, but define it for yourself and make it an organic, sustainable process to get there, as opposed to working towards the success that's projected on you, never really being present to enjoy it, and then looking back like, oh, that was okay, but I really wish I was a fisherman instead for the last 25 years. And that your body, your mind is your biggest asset. So whether you connect with it through sport, through meditation, through yoga, through prayer, through walking, you need to connect with it because it's your biggest asset. It's your biggest asset and it's your biggest ally as you move through this. That's my message for your audience. So if any of that resonated with them, if they're interested in exploring that or they feel ready for transformation in that regard, you know where to find me. Call me. My message for humanity is if we simply take time to step back, slow down, and lend a hand to one another, remembering how much more beauty there is than ugliness, we'd all be so much better off, and the world would be so much more of a peaceful, calm, content place. So I'm just doing my little part to live that.
Well said. I just like eased on down into the cloud. I'm like, oh, good stuff. That is excellent. You are a very, I mean, we have great guests on here anyway. You are a very invigorating, energizing force. I'm glad you're here. Wow. Josh, ask her something else.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask if you had anything else to ask, because at this point I was going to ask how people can connect with you, but I'm sensing we're going to try to extend our stay.
Oh, is that what that is?
If you had
it's like, yeah. Well, I mean, what else is there to say? But you can. Like,
okay, so now that we've heard your message, now that we've heard your message for both our audience and humanity, do you have a challenge you can pose to everybody out there?
Yeah, you know what? I will pose the same challenge that I have undertaken. I will pose to humanity. I challenge you to take 30 days and acknowledge one thing each day that you're grateful for, as small or as big, and share it with someone. If you're not a social media person, just tell a friend, like, hey, today I'm grateful for this, or write it down. You know, like, you don't have to broadcast it. If you're like, listen, lady, I'm not getting on the internet, that's fine. But if you are a social media person, use your platform for something bigger than you. Take that 30 days, put it on your Insta story. If you're a Snapchat person and you're snapping videos anyway, put it on your Snapchat. LinkedIn, maybe at the end of your 30 days, write an article about it. You know, if you're like, that's not professional, you know, write an article about it. How gratitude made you a better employee or a better boss. There's a ton of different ways to have this practice and then share it with someone.
All right. How should people connect with you? How would you like? Where do you hang out the most online?
Sure. Well, I'm always on my website, awildarivera.com, and I'm sure there'll probably be a link in the show notes, but it's AWILDARIVERA.com. I'm on Instagram at ms.awildarivera, LinkedIn, Awilda and Rivera, Facebook, Awilda Rivera, coach, yogi, spiritual advisor. Oh, and one place that if you like want to hang out, you want to, let's say you're like dipping your toe into the world of like, you know, thinking this way or changing your thinking. I have a free Facebook group called the Success Suite, SUITE, where I post a Monday motivation and different articles occasionally. And sometimes I have a little poll or I'll post a little tip. And it's just a place that's like no pressure, but it's a place where you can hang out with other people. Maybe you have a challenge you're experiencing you want to share. Maybe you want to just kind of see what I'm about more without committing to anything. You could do that. I have a mailing list you could sign up for. I send out stuff on there, you know, at least once a month. Reach out. I'm happy to connect.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. This is a lot of fun. Anything else that you wish we had gotten to that we didn't ask you?
No, I mean, this was a great experience. I had just such a great time talking to you guys, and I hope that if there's ever a reason you could see fit to having me back, you guys don't hesitate to call.
All right. Sounds great.
Maybe what we'll do is go out to one of your retreats.
That'd be wonderful.
We can have a podcast from the retreat.
That'd be amazing.
We got a plan coming up, right?
There we go.
All right. Okay. Make it someplace good.
Yeah. Well, I have Columbia coming up in October. If you guys want to come.
Oh, in October, I don't know. We have a recital for Josh to what is that term? We're going
to Kelvin's
fulfill a challenge we had for the new year. Yeah.
We made resolutions for each other this year, and Kelvin's resolution for me was that I was going to get back into music. So he said he'd come down here if I would pull the guitar out and play in front of people.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he's got a big birthday coming up in October, so
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome, you guys. Well, I'm not too far of a drive. Maybe I'll make an appearance.
All right.
Wouldn't that be awesome? Yeah, hey, we could podcast a whole recital thing. Hey, this is shaping up to be big. We may.
Josh is like, I don't know if I like this. Let's end this episode.
Let's start working on covers so that we can't afford the right.
We got time. I mean, we got a shaman in the corner now. So we can help him. We're gonna click in with his intuition and grab it. Yeah, interface.
But at the very least, Kelvin, when you come visit, we'll if you're not in Colombia at that time, then we'll have to make the trip. It's only a 4-hour drive from here to there.
That's doable, yeah. Because I don't plan to be in a hurry when I come back. So
yeah, it'd be wonderful
if these faces show up in the back of your yoga class. And
oh my God, that would be awesome. I'd love that.
That'd be.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been awesome today.
You have an awesome day.
Hey, well, that was pretty awesome, huh?
Yeah, that was pretty sweet.
Hey, thanks for listening. Show notes and more at jkwdpodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends, and we will see you next week. Bye.